Hello, everyone. I'm Nolan Myers, CEO of Double GDP, where we're building an end-to-end platform for cities to connect with residents, accelerate growth, and deliver responsive public services. I'm here today to bring you a sprint update for May 13th, 2020. And as always, I'll go through the goals that we had for last sprint, progress we made against those goals, and what we hope to accomplish in the next sprint. Diving in, our goals for the last sprint, weekly active user is our North Star, and we wanted to hit 163 and 179 weekly active users in the 2 weeks in the sprint, respectively. We had some process improvement goals in terms of how we run a sprint and be able to iterate a little bit faster. A lot of product goals, especially around rolling out timesheets, some email capabilities, being able to have our application function as more of a one-stop shop for residents of the city, and starting to explore around payments. We wanted to close a new front-end engineer and bring him onto the team, and look at our hiring plan for the rest of the year. So diving in then, on our overall goals, we did quite well. So our weekly active user goal for the last 2 weeks was, as I said, 163 and 179. Against those goals, we hit 185 and 204. Before I go into some of the product stuff, I wanted to take one step and just share one of the most exciting things about the last sprint was engaging with our customers on the ideas of how they're financing the cities and what it takes to actually build a new city from scratch. And we've just learned so much in the last 2 weeks about capital and how you go about financing a city and some of the challenges around it. Because, you know, when you think about starting a new business, you can go to a variety of different sources on how you might finance that business. You might take out a loan, you might go to a venture capital, you might go to private equity, you might, if it's a very large project, you might raise bonds if you're doing some sort of city planning or construction. All of these are ways that people can raise money to start on a new venture. But there's not a kind of capital market today that exists for starting new cities. All of these paradigms have some applicability, but none of them are a direct fit. And so one of the things that we're really thinking about with both our current and future partners is how does a city raise capital, and what is that process like, and how can we help accelerate that growth? It's a big part of building out the new cities that we're looking at now, but also achieving the vision that we're thinking about down the line of a whole host of new cities, eventually doubling the GDP of the world. A little bit more down to earth, thinking about our product sprint, we did make a tremendous amount of progress on iteration in this sprint, and you'll hear a lot more from Nicholas and Minsa around that. But just speed of development and the number of individual stories was great, and it's really shown in what we're able to launch to the world. So the main feature that we wanted to launch was timesheets, and this is how our partner in Kwashi has been managing timesheets for some of their employees prior to Double GDP. In this sprint, we rolled out our very first version of timesheets that give a view of an individual employee. Each employee now can check in and check out at the beginning and end of a shift. It's an easy scan process, much the same way that we have for gate access. And an employee can see their own time like this, and administrators have a view where they can go in and see in a spreadsheet and go approve, which then we eventually bring into a payment processing system. The rollout has had a few bumps, but overall went very well, and it's reflected in the numbers that we're seeing already. We have 25 employees that used the timesheets last week, recorded 89 shifts of work, and over 1,000 hours of labor that have been put in. So it's very exciting to roll out a new feature and see it take form right away. Another feature that we rolled out, we talk a lot about the ways that residents connect with the city, and a lot of that is making requests of the city, asking for something. Thebe is the management company that runs in Kwashi, and they had a client request form that we've now brought directly into Double GDP. This has been a paper process, and we now host it directly in the application. There's a card on the main page of the application. You can go in and send in a client request form, and this is what you'll see. Right now, we're replicating very closely what the existing paper process is, but we're already looking at ways that we can make this faster and easier for clients to make requests. For instance, being able to pre-populate some of this information on the fields, and ultimately have it feel more like a conversation that you'll have with the city. So very first step along those lines, but an exciting one because it broadens the ways that that clients and the city that they're living in can connect. Residents, clients, we use those terms a little bit interchangeably. The third thing that I wanted to talk about was email. So thinking about ways that residents can connect with their cities. So far, the way that we've been messaging back and forth has been entirely via SMS. And in this sprint, we wanted to open up a new medium for communication, and we now have email. We decided that for email, that the very first way that we wanted to do that was complete auto enrollment process. And so we have a standard template now, and anybody who shows up and registers for the application will get this welcome email. Eventually, we'll bring email capability into the messaging part of our application, so that as you're thinking about as a city is thinking about ways of interacting with people, email and SMS and eventually WhatsApp will all be different ways that the administrator of the city can connect with a resident, and vice versa, that resident can reach out to the city. Another exciting development then is that in that communication process, one of the most important things is how people pay. And Thebe also has a payment portal that allows people to do that today. We want our platform to be one-stop shop. And so we've now, rather than trying to recreate a lot of that functionality, we're just hosting it directly into Double GDP. This is a pretty simple approach of putting an iframe around it, but it does allow us to, even just a small thing, a lot of clients have shared with us that they have trouble logging into the portal. And this allows us to just put a help link at the top and allow a client to reach out and say, hey, I'm having some trouble, can you help me? And so even just bringing that into the application has already allowed us to provide a greater degree of support. A little bit more on the product. So those were the goals that we intended to, that we set out to accomplish, but we also made tremendous progress in terms of our analytics and thinking about how we can understand users. And this has already paid off a lot for us. In analytics, we had two initiatives this sprint. One is to bring on Google Analytics, and Yoram will share some of the insights that we're getting from there, and there should be a lot more in the next couple sprints. But the one that I've been most focused on has been BigQuery, where we now replicate all of our data from Heroku into BigQuery, and that allows me to go in and sort of nerd out and run some statistics. One of the things that was really interesting is thinking about how many users we have in different in terms of how recently we've engaged with them. It's really helped me see that there is a tremendous amount of opportunity in the number of users that have never actually logged into the platform. So that opens up a new avenue of content strategy, thinking about how do we reach these users and help bring them in so that they can stay engaged. It's nice though to see that that users who are engaged typically many of them are coming back, and this is showing that you know, this cohort of people here are people who are recent and are coming back week over week. So that's exciting, but this does also more so than the data that we're learning. It's more just a very first step in terms of understanding how we can better engage with users. A little bit more detail on this, thinking about where that 800 users is. Some of that, they come from a variety of different user types. There's probably about 500 of them well, I guess about 200 of them we've reached out to at some point. 500 of them we still have more that we have never even reached out to, at least not in the application. So a lot there to explore and think about. And then finally, another one that I'm very excited about is that we have login via Facebook. This has been something we've been thinking about for a while, and finally got it to a place where now you have an experience where you can log in to the application with your Facebook account. This at this point is just basically just showing that it can be done. Over the next couple of sprints, we'll be thinking about ways that we can broaden that and use it to help engage a wider variety clients and prospective clients, and especially as we start thinking about marketing and sales use cases, I think this is going to be very valuable. So I'm excited about it. So that's the update in terms of product for this sprint. A couple of other just follow-up things. We intended to hire an engineer, and I'm thrilled to welcome Kamran to the team. Kamran, we're looking forward to seeing you on your sprint update 2 weeks from now, and already appreciate the great contribution that you're making in terms of merge requests. Nicholas gives you a nice call out in his video as well. And then we did also give a little bit of thought to a hiring plan, and we decided to take an iterative and incremental approach there. We're looking to hire a couple of engineers in Africa, and we'll be opportunistic about inbound approaches from other people who are interested in working with us, but not do a lot of outbound recruiting outside of our core market of Africa. So thinking ahead for the next 2 weeks, a few things that we want to talk about. The first is content strategy, and I think the ways that we can engage both from ourselves and on behalf of Nkwashi with customers, and thinking about with clients, excuse me, the ways that we can engage them and provide content that is meaningful to them. So I think that's one that we will be a big focus, and now we also have some analytics that'll help us create client segmentations and figure out who's going to be relevant and who might be most interested in receiving a message. And we also have a variety of ways of getting in touch with those clients now with SMS, and we have email, and we're looking at WhatsApp as well. The second thing, we have a lot of we have a few sort of new areas of product that we want to invest in, thinking about plots, mapping of plots, and being able to just display information that's in the Thebe ERP already that we want to bring into WGDP, allowing clients to refer friends or other people that might be interested in the city. But I think what we're really wanting to do over the next couple of weeks is refine some of the features that we rolled out in this last sprint, thinking about timesheets, the customer request form, some of the messaging flows, and just sort of tightening that up and making some of the things that we've just launched a little bit easier to use and more effective. We'll also have some DevOps and testing improvements as we go. And then the big question that's on our mind is at a strategy level, we want to do a better job of being able to connect this engagement that we're getting with clients and everything that we're learning about them, and help that translate into making it easy and reliable for them to pay for their plot. So just being able to connect the engine of content and user engagement with the engine of payments and cash collection. So more to come on that, but that's an area that we will be exploring in the next 2 weeks. That's it for today. Thank you very much for tuning in, and I'll look forward to seeing you again in a couple of weeks. Bye-bye.